the sketch, the value, the color, and everything in between. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a character illustration from start to finish. And this time, I'm going to illustrate a character we all know as Jin Kazama, specifically the version of him that we see in Tekken 8. And we're going to do it in my style. So if you want to learn to do the same, be sure you watch to the very end so you do not miss a step. Now, without further ado, let's get it. Now, the first step of the process is the rough sketch. The purpose initially is to figure out how I want to pose the character. With the help of references and your own knowledge of anatomy, you want to nail down a pose that is consistent with the character's personality. In the case of Jin here, he's a headstrong fighter with the skills and power to back it up. So I settled on this pose of him confidently stepping towards the camera, something that is simple yet hopefully effective. At this stage, my sketch does not need to be perfect, but it needs to be good enough to act as a reliable foundation to build upon. With my approach, I like to do the shading as I do the line work, as this gives me a good sense of the volume very early on. And as I move along, I'm checking for corrections and readjustments I need to make before I move on to the next step. And once I'm satisfied enough with the pose, I start adding on the clothing. At the start, I draw the clothing on a separate layer with a different color, that way I can look at it more independently from the pose beneath. The behavior of the folds on the clothing should reflect the forms underneath, which is simple enough here because all he's wearing is a pair of pants. Another thing to keep in mind is that you want any articles of clothing that wrap around the forms of the figure to accurately reflect the perspective of that particular form. This is especially the case for ellipses that wrap around the forms. Drawing these in the wrong direction or in a manner that flattens your image can destroy any sense of dimension you're trying to convey. Now, Jin's outfit goes through design changes with each installment of the Tekken series, and this process was recorded before the release of Tekken 8, so it was actually quite difficult to find good quality references for this version of the character. On top of that, this isn't even his main outfit in the game, so references were even more difficult to come by. I managed to grab some screenshots from trailers, but due to the motion blur, it was hard to get good quality images, particularly for the gauntlets. But I made do with what I can get my hands on, and I think I matched it pretty closely. Now, this next step may be the most important part of this particular process. But before I get to that, if you like what you see so far, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you do not miss any future videos. Now, this next step is crucial because it sets up the foundation for the rest of this process, and that is refining the drawing. Now, there are many processes when it comes to illustrating a character. And for many of them, you don't actually need to refine your drawing before you move on to values or color. But for this process, your drawing needs to be pretty airtight. And the reason for that comes down to one word, and that word is control. Let me explain. Every major element of this illustration is designated to specific layers that can be independently adjusted. There is a hierarchy in place. At the very bottom, we'll have the materials masked out within the silhouette. Above that, we'll have the local colors masked within the silhouette. Then above that, we'll have the shadows. Above that, we'll have the lighting. Above that, we'll have any additional sources of lighting. And then at the very top, we'll have the refined drawing. You can see here how I'm isolating the silhouette, which will be used later on in the process. But with the refined drawing on the very top, it's going to hold everything beneath it together, which is why this stage is so important. But this drawing is done in a particular way. As you see, this isn't simply a line drawing, there's some shading there, but it's also not a fully rendered drawing either. This drawing is used to plot out the shadows, and I'm sticking to a value range between 4 to a 6. The reasoning for that will be clear as we move on. But for now, what I'm doing is refining the details, defining the shadow shapes, and clarifying how the forms are turning. It's important to solve any major design issues at this stage, because from here on out, everything that follows will depend heavily on this drawing. Now you might be asking, how do I learn to draw the human figure like this, or even better? Well, I've actually got an entire playlist that is dedicated to learning how to draw anatomy using all the books I've ever used to study the subject. So you may want to check that out if you haven't already. Now, once I'm confident enough in my drawing, I move on to the next stage, which is going to be the masking of the drawing. Now, I didn't record this part of the process, so I'm showing you after the fact. But what we have here is the drawing. What I did was I went ahead and used a silhouette to create a mask with different colors. Now, the goal here is to separate the materials. And so the most important thing is that you make the colors contrast enough so that you can then make clean selections, like so. And with that, you then create your layer with the local colors. Now, the reason you have these two different layers is that if I were to turn off this drawing layer, you then see the flat colors. Now, if I select this color here, for example, the gauntlet blends into the pants, so I can't make that clean selection. But if I go to this layer, the mask layer, deselect, and then while I'm on this mask layer, select that area, it's already separated because the colors are different. And that's what the use of that is for. Now, what you're seeing here are just two layers at play. It's only the drawing layer and the flat local colors layer. And those two together create this right here. So you could already see how powerful that initial drawing is when combined with simply using these flat colors that are underneath it. And this drawing is going to hold everything beneath it in place. While I'm at it with the colors, I'm going to take this time to map out the textile design. Since the lighting and values are dedicated to layers other than this one, I don't really have to consider those things when I'm painting away with flat colors here, since those other layers do that work for me. It starts off rough just to give me something to work with, and then I gradually refine it to a more accurate design. After this, it is time for the lighting and value. This part is slightly complex in terms of layer arrangements, and it warrants its own video, but basically I'm painting on a color dodge layer above the local colors, but with the desaturation filter on top of the whole drawing. This allows me to basically paint in grayscale while simultaneously painting in color. This layer is completely dedicated to lighting, and so I'm only touching the surfaces that are receiving light, adding some definition and creating detail where necessary. Now from here on out, it's a pretty straightforward process. I just continue to render my drawing, and pretty soon here I'll start switching off the desaturation filter. That way I can see how this work here is affecting the colors. So I'm mainly working on the lighting layer from here on out, and if I need to make any corrections to the shadow shapes, I'll go back to my original sketch and make some adjustments where necessary. Now enjoy the rest of this process. I will be back at the end of this video. And while you're at it, guys, let me know, what other franchises and characters would you like to see me take on? It seems that the majority of my audience is into video game characters as well as anime, so let me know in the comments below. And here we have it. This is our end result right here. I could take it a little bit further for more polish, but I'm going to stop it right here now. Let's go through some of the layers real quick. Let's take these extra layers away. And now here, let's see, get rid of the lighting. Bop. So we've got the silhouette with the local colors right here. At the very top, you've got this line drawing. Above that, we've got the lighting up here above all the patterns and whatnot. Then the secondary lighting or the rim lighting. And I've added this lightning effect here with its own light source. And then we've grounded the character right here, like so. And there you have it. Let's zoom in a bit. If you guys want to see more, you know exactly what to do. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss any of the future videos I got coming up for you. And so, with all that being said, thanks for watching. Hope it was helpful, and I will catch you all soon. Peace.